So, good afternoon. Let's get started. I know people are still trickling in, but let's get started. Last time, when we spoke about the training evaluation methods, there were some questions around it. Some of you wanted to know how we can compare different models. So, and also gave you all a homework. I'm not sure if you were all able to do it, but I thought why not we do it in the session. So, what you would see on your chat window is the evaluation model comparison and also the case that I had sent last time. So, let's start with that before we move on to something else. Let's let's be sure of what we've learned and let's see how we can practically use it. In the last class, I had asked you to get some case or some scenario for which you want to know how to evaluate. If any of you have got it, we could pick that. Otherwise, we could choose the case that I have on the chat and let's take the first 15-20 minutes to see how best you can evaluate the scenario. Last time I told you I'll give you three or four ways of evaluating it. But first, I would want you all to give it a try. Choose any one model. The model comparison will help you. Choose and then see as a group how best you'll be able to evaluate the model. Will you all do that? I see around 9 or 10, maybe just two breakout rooms will do. Or do you want to do it together in the same plenary? I'm fine with that also. Let me know how you all want to take this forward. I leave the decision to you. How do you want to take this forward? Do you have any case with you or a scenario? Or would you all want to pick the scenario that I sent last time and I've again put it on the chat? I see around 15, at least 13, 14 of you on the call. So I would hear from you what is it that you want to do. Am I audible? Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, then if you don't tell me what you guys want to do, it'll be very hard for us to proceed. Because last time you all said you would want some practical tips and you would want to do it yourself. So I have two options for you. Either you get me the case or you pick the case and decide and talk about how you would want to evaluate the program based on any model of your choice. And I've also given you the comparison between different models. So, do you want me to put you all in breakout rooms so that you would want to take a stab at it and see how you would want to evaluate this? Should we start with that? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to create two rooms and then you know what you have to do. There is this case on the chat. You will have to open it, pick it up, read through it. I'm sure you already would have, but choose any one model. Let's say you chose Kirkpatrick or you chose LTEM, and then you will have to see how to evaluate under each parameter. Okay? So let me do that. Let me send you all to two breakout rooms. Okay, welcome back. Anybody still in the breakout room or is everybody back? I think it will take 31 seconds to close. Let's give it that time. Okay, so all rooms have closed. I think both the groups, there was some activity. One group evaluated the program using the Kirkpatrick, and the other group evaluated it using the Anderson's model. So let's hear from both the groups. Would one from each group talk about their experience and how they evaluated using the Anderson's model and the Kirkpatrick?
So the relating the model with the cases that we have provided gave us a very
Your voice is breaking,
it's
Sadaf. I don't know if it's just for me or for the rest of everyone as well.
so then my voice is breaking. Would you like to continue? Perhaps I may be facing some glitch. Is he
Sorry, I
there?
Yes, ma'am.
wasn't.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, we have implemented this cockpit trick on the reaction stage that comes into the entire play. Like, what are the things that the trainee is actually experiencing on her new position when she is joining the organization? How she is actually getting the treatment from the entire team. What is her feedback in terms of getting adjusted with the entire environment and the work processes, followed by there will be the learning session where we have implemented different kind of methodology to get her adjusted with the entire process. Like say for example, there will be this OJT also, that she will be under the supervision of some a team member, where she will be learning the entire culture, the processes, how she would be getting into the entire thing, what are the things that the organization is following, and then followed by uh, behavior, like whether she's actually implementing those things, whatever she has learned, how she's actually approaching towards the target that has been given to her, how she's actually getting into the entire process. And to measure that, we have followed that the scorecard, that the entire process, whether she's making any kind of change in the scorecard at the end of the month, like say for example, if she is excelling in something, that is good, and where she's actually deviating and needs some kind of push from that entire team or the particular trainer. So that is what we have followed, and
Perfect.
eventually the result one, that's where she's actually standing and where she needs guidance. That's all.
Okay, good. Thank you. How about the other group?
Yeah, ma'am. The other group, we had just thought about going with Anderson model, which is about three stages, wherein the first one is against the what is it, the alignment of the uh, training objectives with the strategic priorities of the organization. When the case scenario is being taken, it is about the onboarding of the character called Alice. So onboarding will anyways have the fair view about uh, organizational mission, vision, what is it dealing about the services or the products, and it is very clearly mentioned the location of the different offices and other things. So collaboration of both the technical and the soft skills has been taken up there, wherein using various videos, AI generated videos and other things can be used for aligning the mission and goals of the management objectives, and also the JD of the character there. Coming to the second stage is about methods that we are using it. So it can be a role play method and also the AV method which is used, and also case analysis, which actually bridges the third stage, which is in four stages again, bifurcated, wherein the return on investment is also calculated. Return on expectations is to be supposed to be calculated, and benchmark and capacity. with learning function measures, wherein the return on investment measures and the expectation measures has been collaborated with a method of questionnaires, which can even give us some, if any innovative ideas have been given, if the case studies or analysis has been posed in such a way that there is a way that the creative contribution can be given by the employees or the trainee, that can be checked out in the ROI and ROEs stage. When in benchmark and capacity measures, the role play and LFM also, the role play can be very easy yardstick to measure it. Hence, stage 2 and stage 3 collaboratively gives a holistic fair view about the learner and the meeting of objectives of the training.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Also, if you see on the chat, I've sent you a document with the solution. I think it's named solution, but there are different ways of evaluating it. I've tried taking Phillips model. There are 4 or 5 models, including Anderson, including Kirkpatrick. So just go through it. It's just a sample to give you an idea of how the same can be evaluated using different models. This should give you a better idea and a better understanding. With this, I think I've closed. We've discussed all the different models in the last 2 weeks. We've understood what is the how is it they are similar, how is it they are different, where can they be used in a program, and you yourselves have tried using it. If you have any questions, let me know. I think we also did an assessment last week. Some of you had left the meeting by then. I have reposted the link for your benefit. You can take it up. It's a small quiz that talks about what we covered in the assessments, in the sessions, so that it's just to check your understanding. Any questions before we move on to the next topic for today? Any questions that you all have on on the different models, how they need to be used? Any doubts before we move forward?
Ma'am, this Kirkpatrick model or Anderson model जो चारों steps है, whatever 4 or 5 steps है, वो is it necessary post training itself, or it can be scheduled like after onboarding time, after 2 months or 3 months again evaluation will happen. So does it what should be the way to be approached to this entire thing?
You're talking of just Anderson or any evaluation model?
Right now quick pathway, because reaction तो मुझे post training तो समझ में आ जाएगा, लेकिन when we talk about behavior and the learnings, perhaps that will go little bit later. So
Yes.
what exactly is the time period should I really give, and then I should evaluate? Is there any prescribed time limit, something, or it varies? What exactly?
So there is no, usually companies follow 30, 60, 90.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies just do 30, depending on what kind of program. In Accenture, for onboarding, we almost 1 year we take for to ensure the person is onboarded. For learning
Okay.
programs, we usually do 6 months. So that is 90 days. So
Okay.
yeah, so like that, it depends on the nature of the program as well. So if it's a short duration program, and 30 should be enough, or you could do all the three. First, find out how the behavior, or how is it after 30, after 60, after 90. There is
Okay.
no prescribed thing. 30,
Okay.
60, 90
That's
is commonly followed, but you can
okay.
always do up to a year also.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That answers
And
my
also,
question.
yeah, and also what I recommend is, when you know
Mm.
how you are evaluating, you tweak. To give you an
Mm.
example, this is how I learned. Okay, everybody learns through
Mm.
evolves. So there was one program that we did. It was a women leadership development program, and then we realized that it was almost 5, 6 months, and then
Mm-hmm.
we realized that we haven't checked the behavior. And then
Mm.
overnight we created a form, one for the
Mm.
participants and one
Mm.
for the supervisors of those participants, and we sent
Mm-hmm.
the form to everybody to check whether they see any change. And
Mm.
post that, we realized that this should be more structured, not a
Mm.
on the spur of the moment decision. So on the
Yes.
next
Yes.
run of the program, we made it as part of the program's model, saying that there will be
Okay.
an evaluation 30 days after. Then we will, after 6 months, we will send a survey to all the managers to
Mm.
decide how, to check from them if they have chosen, if they found any value in
Mm.
doing the program. And that's really helped. So sometimes
Mm.
it's through the journey you realize and then
Hmm.
you improvise and you do it, and then later make
Yes.
it as part of the process itself. So that's where
Hmm.
these evaluation models are very interesting for me, friends, because I realize that when you
Hmm.
go through it, when you know how you have to do it, what is the outcome you're expecting, then you
Hmm.
tweak the
Hmm.
program to ensure that you get the desired results.
Hmm. Got it.
That's where these models, understanding the theory or understanding the concept, is important, because then you can make the desired changes to the program itself in the beginning itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any
that helps,
thoughts?
Shobha ma'am.
Yeah. Any thoughts, any feedback? Anybody else wants to share anything before we move on, or should we start? You all have the documents all with you handy, right? If you want to, you can share it. I don't know. I'm hoping all of you have access to the chat. So what all I've shared with you, I've shared with you the class 1 and class 2 PPT that was shared. I have shared with you that. I've given you the case study. I've given you the solution also. And as I said, don't just think it's just a sample. It's just my way of evaluating it, just to give you an idea. I've also given you the link to the to those of you who did not take the assessment.
Ma'am,
All
I
of
couldn't receive the PPTs.
I put it on the chat. Let me share that again on the chat. It was sent. I think it will be put on your share drive, but I was
Yes,
told
ma'am.
it will take some time. So I
Okay.
also shared it on the chat. Maybe not. Let me put it up again.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so now you should have that for the class 1 and 2. So basically, it has all the evaluation models. Okay, good. So let's start what I had planned for you for today. Let me bring up my screen. Is my screen up? Will one of you confirm that, please?
No, not visible, ma'am.
Not yet.
Not yet. I see a notification saying your screen is shared. Hmm. How about now?
Still not appearing.
No, ma'am.
We are not able to see.
Okay, not sure why. Don't tell me technology is again playing a spoil sport today. Because I can see. Is it up?
No, ma'am.
Still not.
Uh, okay.
Probably if you can share the PPT over the chat and someone else can present it if you give the rights.
Yeah, maybe we could do that. Let me do that. I'm sharing it. Uh, and let me first allow multiple participants can share simultaneously. Okay. In the meantime, just think of if you have any doubts or anything that you would want to clarify. Mm, okay. Let me know if you see it on your chat. Will one of you bring it up, please? Do you see it on the chat? I think it's. In the meantime, let me try for one last time if I'm able to bring it. Are you able to see my screen?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then will one of you please share it?
Probably you'll have to give the rights, ma'am. We'll not have the rights to.
I have
Yeah, we
I
do
have
have it.
already made the changes. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should.
we do have it.
Yes. Yeah, I did change that.
I had shared. Is my screen is visible?
Yes,
Yeah,
I see
but
somebody sharing it.
the whole screen is visible, sir. Just put.
Wait. Just I'm downloading that PPT.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, good. So what we will do as the screen comes up, what we will do today is we'll talk about the design of the designing the tools for evaluation. We'll explore different aspects which are essential for creating effective tools. We understood what are the models, but there are different tools that we have. Let's talk about those tools today. And before we start with those tools, let's talk about the difference between measurement and evaluation. How would you differentiate what is evaluation and what is measurement? Are they same? Is there any difference?
Yes, ma'am. There is a difference.
Yeah, and what is the difference?
Evaluation is particularly to understand how much the learner has learned. Like, what are the the kind of training interventions that has happened, how
Mm-hmm.
far the learner has acquired the knowledge. And measurement is something which eventually helps to understand, like, where the learner is actually standing, how much development is required. Say, for example, like before starting of the training session, we have certain kind of figures. Like this is the particular figures that the learner is actually learner has acquired. Post completing the session entirely, so we will have the entire difference between the metrics, like say for example, like if the customer satisfaction percentage was around 50 to 55% for that particular employee,
Mm-hmm.
after completing the entire process, entire evaluation process, everything, after 2 weeks or so, we can see the delta change over there. So how far the delta has changed, like whether it has increased, whether it has decreased. Suppose the intervention has been that much effective, so there must be some kind of delta change in the entire process. So that comes into the measurement part. And evaluations is something which eventually helps the trainer to understand how much the learner has learned.
Shall I share the PPT?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, Sadaf.
So I'll take the Alice example itself so that we can relate with that. So जब एलिस के लिए मैं क्वेश्चन प्रिपेयर कर रही थी, वो मेरा डेटा कलेक्ट करने के लिए, that was my measurement. But after collection, when I'm going to analyze, interpret that data that I've collected from Alice and more participants like Alice in that institution, I'm trying to evaluate.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
data can be quantitative in terms of numbers or scores, or it can be qualitative, observation, feedbacks, as in terms of behavior level. So there, of course, it will be in terms of observations and feedback and more qualitative data that I will get. And evaluation involves a lot of making judgment based on the assessments or the numbers and figures that I have received from the measurement part.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you, Sadaf. If you can just move on a few slides. I think the next slide. Yeah, in the next one also. Let's look at. I think you're right. Measurement. You are right. Measurement is something which is very tangible, so which you can have a numerical index. You can attach a number to it. Evaluation is based on those numbers. You do a deep dive. You compare it with something else. So that's the evaluation. So you would see on the screen, I will just give you a quick minute to go through it. And then we'll also see an example to understand the difference better. So it's the quantitative description plus qualitative description plus value judgment. If you can move on to the next one, here is a comparison given. So let's say weight. It's an example of an attribute of a student of fifth standard. So attribute is weight, measurement is 42 kgs, evaluation is fat. Running speed is 100, measurement is 40 seconds. Again, evaluation is fast. So if you see the reasons also given, so if you'll see, why is somebody considered as fat? Similarly, in the second case, you've measured that the student covered 100-meter distance in 40 seconds. So unit of measurement, and now you say, and then the running speed is also categorized into three parts: up to 50 seconds fast, 50 to 75 average, more than 75 seconds is slow. So based on that, the evaluation is fast. So like this, measurement will only give you the numerical aspect of it, but evaluation, when you evaluate, you understand the you combine the quantitative, qualitative, and you also do a value judgment, and then you come up with you evaluate it. So that's the evaluation. Is the difference between both clear? Do we all as a group have a good understanding on the measurement, the difference between measurement and evaluation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then let's move on and talk about the evaluation methods. So there are two kinds of, the evaluation methods have been categorized into quantitative methods and qualitative methods. Would anybody like to share their thoughts on what quantitative methods are or what qualitative methods are?
Quantitative is again numerical or statistics based, and the qualitative means about the the good thing or the bad thing or the adjectives we are using. So quantitative measure is a measure of quantity, and qualitative is a qualitative measure.
Okay, perfect. So you are right. I think yes. So if you can move on. So I think we all know quantitative and qualitative. Let's figure out how will we gather quantitative methods. If you have to get quantitative, you have to use quantitative methods to evaluate. You will do it through surveys. You will gather numerical data through structured questionnaires to measure the attitude, behavior, and perceptions. Statistical analytics. You will use statistical techniques like regression analytics, hypothesis testing to analyze the numerical data and identify patterns. Program performance metrics also, where you measure specific indicators such as productivity, efficiency, or financial performance to assess the program impact. So these are all quantitative methods. If we move on to the next one, which is the qualitative, here we talk about interviews, focus group, case studies, and in interviews, open-ended questions. If it's just yes or no, or if it's helping. So interviews can also be if you're doing it. So somewhere in some books you will see interviews as part of quantitative as well. The difference being here, it's open ended, you are getting their insights. There it will be very close ended, and which will help you to structure it. So that's where in some places you will see both. But if you understand, the kind of questions in each will be different. So focus groups, discussions where you will have a set of participants and explore their perspectives and generate ideas, case studies. So these are some of the qualitative methods. Any questions before we move on to talk about the tools? Okay, let's move on. So there are different tools that we use. We use forms. We use, it could be forms on Google. It could be the Teams forms. It could be surveys. It could be questionnaires, interviews, and templates. So these are some of the very popular design evaluation tools. And whichever tool you use, there are certain parameters to be kept in mind, which we'll go through. But do we all know what forms are, what surveys are, what questionnaires are, interviews? So I don't think we need to do a deep dive into what each one is. Unless you have any thoughts or questions to ask me, we can move on. I'm assuming all of us have clarity. So let's move on to understand how do we. So whichever tool we use, there are certain things that we need to keep in mind, and they are very important, because only when you have these attributes in mind, it's very important. So only then your whichever tool you use to create will be successful. So first and foremost is defining the purpose. Find out the specific goals and objectives of the evaluation. What do you want to measure? What aspects of training are you seeking feedback on? So let's assume, going back to our Alice example. So if you want the feedback on how happy Alice was, the questions will be only focused on uh, Alice. But if you want to focus Alice, understanding what Alice liked, what not, but if you want to focus on the facilitator, so there, if let's assume that you, for your evaluation, you say the purpose is not just to check Alice understanding, but also figure out how was the facilitator, how was the setup in the room, how was the infrastructure. So you find out what all aspects will you cover in your evaluation tool. So you will make a list of it, and not everything can be covered in the reaction level. Some you will take it up at a different level, but you always have to have the purpose clearly defined. You need to be very sure of what you are evaluating the person on. So once that understanding is there, that will give you the idea, that will give you a good idea. Then you evaluate the criteria. So determine the key areas and criteria that you want to evaluate. It could be the content relevance, it could be trainer effectiveness, training materials that was used. So first you've defined the purpose, and then you will say, okay, my criteria is I will divide my evaluation tool, and I will measure delivery method. I will check overall satisfaction. So that all comes under the evaluation criteria. The third step is you will design the form. You will start, and how will you design the form? You will start by maybe having the title, creating a title for the evaluation form, name of the training session or a program. Sometimes you would want anonymous feedback. Not everyone is, so you will decide whether you will take an anonymous feedback, or you would take a feedback where people would share their email IDs or names. And you will also include instructions. Many times we assume it's always good to give one or two lines of instructions at the beginning of the form to guide participants on how to complete it. It's always good to organize the forms into sections corresponding to the evaluation criteria, what you've identified. So, what are the evaluation criteria that you would have identified? Trainer effectiveness. So, the heading could be trainer effectiveness or delivery method. So, have those sections, and then have questions, and sometimes rating scales is where sometimes the where we go wrong is using the rating scales. If one, and that can be confusing, if one means low and five means good, keep that consistency throughout the form. One place, if you change that, people will get confused. So use, and you can use a combination of rating scales, open-ended questions, close-ended questions, check forms, check boxes, to gather qualitative and quantitative feedback. Keep the language always simple. easy to understand, provide ample space for participants to write. If it's a paper, you're doing it as a handout and people have to manually fill it, ensure you give them enough space to write their comments or suggestions. If you, and if you want to calculate, if you want to come up, if you know what is it that you're capturing, let's say you want just their email IDs, or you want their department. Today, if you just know their employee number, I'm sure you'll be able to do a VLOOKUP from your database and get the inputs. So many a times when you have that provision, you should leverage that instead of asking too many questions, because sometimes we start gathering inputs which we already have, and that takes a long time. So we need to be very smart about it and ask only the required questions than everything else. Maybe it could be just their employee number or just their email address, because using the email address, you'll automatically be able to pull up the rest of the information. So that's very important. So now what have we done? We have designed the form. And then we've also decided what participant information we will include. So next is pilot test the form. Always test the form before you finalize it. Test it with a small group. It could be your own team, or it could be with a test group, to check whether they're understanding it, whether they're finding it relevant, or something, some question that you could, that they could recommend that you add. So usually what companies do is they usually have a template in place, and you can use those templates. It's pre-customized some questions, but I recommend that you always customize it. Take a template, but use the questions from there, but always customize it for that particular program. There would be some unique element of that program that you would want to call out in your evaluation tool. So always customize it. People feel that this is, you've taken that extra effort to customize it for them, and the response rate is always better for a customized form. So what I usually try to do is, if there is a program banner, I try to add that banner in the form than using the standard templates that Google form or the Teams form has. Or if it's a print, just add the banner there to add that touch, and use the names of the facilitators. If I'm taking the feedback, that also adds, gives that touch where people feel that it has been customized. So do that pilot test so that you get an idea. Sometimes the link may not be working. If it's a link, many a times it's happened that when you roll it out before testing, you may not, you realize that a particular group is not able to access, or the settings may have to change. So it's always helpful to do that test. So I think we've covered 5. We have 4 more to go. But let me take a pause here. Any questions, any thoughts with what we've discussed?
Yeah, I have one query. Okay, like the second point, identify the evaluation criteria. Okay, so suppose in our organization we have launched a platform, one platform like 2 years ago. So most of them haven't activated their account, and like most of the they have or they haven't picked up any courses in their platform. Okay, so like if we have sent any like content, engaging mailers, engaging messages on Teams, to start leveraging on the learning platform, start your learning journey, and all these things. And if we track this, so track this like with the we look up with the employee code, as you were saying. Even we also handle this. So is it is that the part of the evaluation process also?
Sorry, if you could. So what you're asking is it okay to do? You're saying you do the VLOOKUP to get the details. So I understood that,
Like
but
whoever is what is their progress, like if we send one content like to activate their account or to pick up particular course, so if they have it is started any courses or not, or activated account or not, like is it a part of the evaluation?
May I add something, ma'am,
yeah,
in
please.
this case? Anirbanji, this is not actually a but kind of evaluation process, but it is more of following whether the trainees are actually getting themselves aligned with the process or not. In terms of when you are triggering some kind of activity through the LMS or anything, any particular thing, whether they are going through it, whether they are following it or not, it eventually comes into the entire scorecard. So I believe these are all these things are connected with your scorecard and also the stakeholder scorecard also, right?
Yes, just to add,
Completion
so I
all
think
this.
now I am, yeah,
Yes.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So
Yes.
maybe
So
I, yeah.
this is more of the target of the L&D team, like get the things completed within this particular TAT. So if their trainees are not, completing all these things within their particular tag time, say for example, each and every organization is giving a tag time of 5 days or 1 week or so. So within that particular time, the trainer has to align the entire team to complete the LMS part or any kind of activity that has been triggered. So if that is not been getting completed, that eventually comes under the not directly under the evaluation part, but that is connected with the due diligence part, whether they are actually following the norms or not, whether they are actually getting into the process or not. In that case, what we do is, we if somebody is debating the entire process, we generally tend to issue any kind of SCN or not, SCN, if that is getting done for different kind of several times in a month. So that is more of connected to the entire process flow. This is not actually connected with the evaluation parameters, but it is
Um,
connected more of the KPI of the trainer. That is.
but yeah, yeah, thank you, Deban. I think that helped. But if you want to include it as part of the evaluation criteria, what you could do, Anirban, is you could add a separate title which says engagement. We could add and say, and then
Yes.
add a question. How were the engaging? How was the engagement level? You were saying that you sent nudges, you sent videos, so you could ask a question around it. The theme, the criteria could be engagement, and then you could ask questions. Say that, how was the engagement level? Did it help
Yeah.
you take up the module? Did it urge you? Did it encourage you to take up the module? You could have some questions added under that criteria, if that is what you're asking.
Yes, like even after we send multiple times like this type of content, and even if like a few of them has responded after tracking also. So like we need to like kind of drive some more into engagement also, like that.
Okay. So I recommend you add it as part of criteria so people know that, and then you will know whether or whatever you're doing is adding it or not. If you think that people respond saying the responses say that it is not added value, then there is a need for you to make some changes to the way you are promoting it. Maybe people have not seen it. So anytime you roll any such feedback, the responses, you need to evaluate it, and that's when you will know whether what you're doing is right or not. Should you do something else? Should you change the course of action? So that will give you an idea. Okay, so let's move on. I think we've covered fifth. Let's move on to the next one, which is distribute the form. How you distribute the form also is very important. If it's in person, you just distribute it right after the session, and you get them to fill it. And trust me, if you're taking the reaction, it's always good to do it in the last 5-10 minutes of the session, because people are mentally and physically there. If it's online, I still recommend do it before you let them go, because once you let them go, it's not easy to get, depending on the audience also. If it's senior audience, they will get back, they will get busy with their work, and you may not everybody might fill. Also, when you send the form, so avoid sending the form after 5 in the evening or after 6 in the evening or on a Friday evening. So usually when we send evaluation forms, when we send any kind of communication, we choose a Monday morning or any morning first, not just very early, but morning, because people are fresh, they will check, and they will respond to it. So that's what we do, but you do things which work for your organization, the way you distribute it. If you are sending it as a if you're sending it as an attachment, people may not again open it. So you know your group the best. You may want to embed it inside the mail, that can be possible, or give them a link, whatever works best, but put some thought to it as to what is convenient. Always ensure that whatever method you choose, it should be convenient for the person who's filling it. So they shouldn't feel it like a hassle. That's why I said reduce the number of questions which talk about themselves. So that could be one. Also see what is the easiest way for them to respond. So that's on the distribution of the form. Collect and analyze the response. That's very important. Many times we send these forms but we don't actually sit, because if there are multiple sessions happening, you send so many forms, and not many of us really sit and analyze these responses. But I think in smaller organizations it's still easy, or small number of programs you manage, it's still possible. But with bigger numbers, different programs happening, if you have 5 or 10 sessions happening a day, you may not be able to analyze every single response. But it's important that we do it, because otherwise the whole purpose of running a survey is not, it's not solved. So it's very important that you not just roll out a survey but also analyze, study, and find out what is the trend. And I think things are easy now. If you go to Google form or even the Teams form, it automatically gives you the analysis. So it gives you, it comes up with these creative pie charts, diagrams, to tell you how the responses have been. So leverage that. So though the tools give you that, you need to look at it and leverage it. So do that. And report findings. So you need to report the findings, summarize it in form of a slide, share the report with relevant stakeholders. And as part of the learning fraternity, it's very important, when you share it back and you say that, this is for this ABC program. Or let's go back to Alice, onboarding, everything was good about her onboarding, but I'm sure that's not the case always. So what didn't go well with her onboarding? What are the things that you recommend? So the just go back and tell the team, we evaluated 3 months responses of all the people who've joined, and people like Alice, we just did, and we found out that many people recommend that we change this. And then when you report your findings, and then based on that action, you take action, and it's like a continuous improvement. So incorporate feedback from the evaluation. Again, you go back, again you put it. That's why it's like a training cycle. The first session we spoke to, it's all very closely interlinked, because once whatever feedback you give, it goes as a feed in to the design of the future trainer program. Again, it's like a cycle, and you again evaluate it. So this way, it's like a continuous improvement. Any questions, any thoughts? I think, well, it's just 5 minutes more. If I continue with the next, will not be. So I'll stop at this for today. I'll let you all ask me questions if you have. Otherwise, we'll continue in the next session. Anybody wants to share any example, any scenarios, or ask me, how, or share how they evaluate programs, please feel
Yeah.
free to use the opportunity to share.
Just one thing, like in our organization, we had one LMS. So, what happens whenever we their trainers, they conduct a physical session or virtual session also. So everything is recorded in the LMS, and after that, whatever evaluation is whatever evaluation is done actually. So they are also captured in the platform. Means after the employees have finished taking their means finish their sessions also. So they need to fill the evaluation forms also. Okay, how is the rating? What can be improved or like that. Just working can LMS will be used for conducting evaluations also, in the digital way, virtual way.
yeah, you can collect the feedback virtually also. Is that your question?
Yes, yes. Like from the LMS organization, LMS also. Yeah. From the organization's learning platform.
Yeah, you can, depending on what tool you use. That's where you have to figure out. LMS also has that option where you can take. In fact, we do polls also. Immediately after the session, you can just do a poll on Teams or on Zoom to figure out on WhatsApp. Get creative, get innovative when you do this. It doesn't have to be always
You can
very structured. You can also go innovative, do it as a poll on WhatsApp if that's okay with your organization. Do it as a poll on Teams, or just a quick survey. That works. Yeah. Or as you said, LMS also is good.
or people can have their own personalized form to take the feedback of the session. Most of the trainers are having their own personalized forms where there would be a different kind of segregation. If they have liked the session, different kind of question will come, questionnaires. If they didn't like the session, the different kind of questionnaire will come. If the experience was average, different kind of questionnaire will come. So that is what I use actually. I have prepared it there separately and I
Oh,
implement that
this
in
is
my
lovely.
sessions.
And which tool do you use to roll such surveys out?
Google form, that's the basic thing. So you can
Wonderful
modify your
choice.
Google form accordingly. If
Mm-hmm.
you put some kind of instruction like they have liked, so different kind of segregation parameters will come up with different 5 or 6 kind of questions. How the trainer's behavior was, how did you like, what are the things you liked about the trainer, what particular topic you liked about throughout the entire session. Suppose the trainee is having an average feedback like
Mm-hmm.
50-50. So different kind of, what would be your feedback to enhance the entire quality of the training? What would be your suggestion in this particular area? The trainees will be asked about their suggestion, their feedback. What would be the different kind of yeah, development areas? What are the things you think that should be developed in terms of delivery of the session or about the content? If they didn't like the entire session, different kind of questionnaire will come up. So these things people can implement
Oh,
eventually that helps to understand the entire process in a vast way. So where the trainees are actually standing, and it helps the trainer to understand the effectiveness of the training also. Yes.
very true. I'm impressed. I didn't know that level of customization can be done in Google Forms. It's been a while since I used Google Forms, years in fact. Now we use only forms. But yeah, that's interesting. And if you can customize it to that level, nothing like it. So maybe you
Yeah.
all can offline talk to the Bayan and see how he does it. Does it require any coding, or as I said, it's been a while. So Google has those options, is it?
Nothing. Yes, Google
Yeah,
has
it
that
has.
those options
Okay.
about.
Must be in the last
And
two,
eventually
three
you
years.
can put different kind of images also in every kind of, like they didn't like the session, so the
Mhm.
emotions will be there, like different kind of images didn't like the session, though accordingly you can put the images out there. So it eventually helps the trainees to get involved with the entire process.
Yes,
And
that I
even
agree.
when they are giving the feedback now, they will have some interest, like wow, this is what they are asking and this kind of image is coming up. So the more interesting, interactive, and the eye-catching things you can put in the form or in the content, it eventually helps the trainer to retain the trainees. Even if they didn't like the session, later on they will say that like this is the feedback that we have given, and later on we will have your session again to understand what are the things that you have implemented to develop your session. That what
Actually, ma'am,
happens actually.
there is a n number of forms through we can a trainer can get a feedback. But the problem is that now organization, due to compliance, they are using their own platform to get a feedback, which is common across the globe.
True. So that's where use what is permitted in your organization. Try customizing it. Don't use the same questions. Was the training useful?
No,
Instead,
no,
say, was the
Jugalji, if
onboarding
your
experience useful?
organization is using G Suite, so you can use it. You can use your official email ID to customize your form.
We are
Even though
using
we have
ID.
two different kind of, yeah, as because we use adrenaline, so we have different kind of adrenaline softwares out there. So evaluation happens from there. even though we have our own personalized form also that has been instructed to us, like even though the adrenaline has that, the trainer can have his or her own personalized form to enhance the entire quality of the training. That is what.
Even in a good organization, no, where compliance are so strict, the trainer cannot change the question also. So there is a common questions for multiple types of
Yeah,
training.
questions are there, yes, definitely. Some no, that has been stated, like few 5 or 6 questions are very much important that you will have to keep. Apart from that, if you want to enhance the entire quality of the form entirely, like if you want to get more knowledge about your training and effectiveness of the training, then you can implement. There is no foundation on that particular part.
I usually agree. I think Debayan, what he's saying making sense. Jugal, just talk. Sometimes we just have to ask, saying that can we add a couple questions? If you remove, it'll be a problem. But adding should usually be okay. But again, as you said, as I said earlier, we all know our organizations better, what practices we follow. But good. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the class. I look forward to meeting you all next week. In case you have any questions, message me. I'm part of the WhatsApp group, or shoot an email and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
ma'am. Thank you.
Bye, man. Thank you, man.